few additional ways we won't discuss tonight, but if you want to have a legal ability to earn income, watch, pay attention to this, because this is going to change your life if you get it. 4 ways you can make money. The first way is you can be an employee, right? You can work for somebody else. You trade time for what? For money. You get a $1 rate. Well, the problem is your income's always limited because you only have 24 hours in a day. Your income is 100% dependent on you. It has a cap. The only way you make more money is you trade more time, or you get more money for the time you're currently trading. But when the trade of time stops, so does the money.
That's right.
Therefore, you're always short of one. You either got enough money and not enough time, or you got plenty of time but no money. Why? Because you're trading one for the other, and they're both finite, right? Does everybody understand that? Or you can be self-employed. This is somebody who gets tired of corporate America, somebody having their thumb on them, and they say, I'm going into business for myself. This is a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, right? Somebody who starts their own small business, and they go into work for themselves, and now these people, they own a job. They own a job. Nobody's controlling them, but they're still trading time for money. If the lawyer doesn't fight any cases, what happens? If the doctor doesn't do any surgeries, what happens? Okay? You got to understand, it's just a better version of a job. They go on vacation, what happens? The money stops. They get sick, what happens? The money stops. They might get more, right? They might have a professional degree that allows them to get more per hour, but at the end of the day, there's still only how many hours? 24 in a day, 168 in a week, and will always be limited by that. When the time output stops, the income input stops. That's dangerous. Folks, nobody wins in this method. The third way is you can become a business owner. This is somebody that has a system, right, where there are people working for them. Watch this. Let's say you started cutting grass. You were self-employed. You got $50 a lawn, right? Okay, and you said, well, man, I can only do so many lawns. I do a good job. I've got more demand than I can fulfill. So I recruit Rakia and Tanya, right? And I get them their own lawnmowers. I say, listen, I'm going to give you these lawns I can't do. You take 40, give me 10. I got the client, and they're happy. They're getting $40 a lawn, but now I'm getting 50 on my lawns, and 10 on her lawns, and 10 on her lawns. Well, guess what? If I had 5 of them, right, I'd make as much per lawn they cut as I make on my own. You understand that? If I had 50 of them, I'd make what? 10 times from their effort at $10 a lawn that I make on my own 50. Right, does that make sense? Eventually I get enough lawnmowers going, I don't have to mow the lawn anymore. All of you that have a job, you work for somebody who figured that out.
That's right.
They're working for you, right? Or you're working for them, so they don't have to do the work. Right? And they don't mind paying you and taking a little bit, because if you get enough time, what if you had watch this. What if you had 1,000 people working for you and you made $1 an hour off their effort? That's $1,000 an hour without your effort. Right? Does that make sense? Well, guess what? If you don't have to put your effort out, how many people could you have working for you? 1,000, 5,000, 10,000? You have time to get as many people to work for you as you want. And each time you make $1, that's how you get free. That's how you get wealthy, is through leverage. They own a system, and they have people working for them, and they don't trade time for dollars anymore. How do they get more dollars? They get more people. Everybody understand that? Eventually you get enough money where you invest the money. You got a surplus. I can pay all my expenses, and now I got all this left over. Let's put the money to work. Right? Well, guess what? Money doesn't get cancer, doesn't get Alzheimer's, doesn't get tired, it doesn't take vacations. It works 24/7 for you, compounding in your favor. See, rich people have compounding interest working for them. Poor people have compound interest like credit cards, student loans, car notes, home mortgages working what? Against them. The rich wake up tomorrow richer than they were today because overnight somebody was making money with their money. The poor wake up even poorer tomorrow because the interest is accrued per diem against them yesterday. Right? So you could become an investor and get free. Everybody following this? Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to time for money and where you can make the most money and have most control of your time, which side is it on? Left or right? Right. It's on the right. Everybody gets it. Right? But 95% of the people in America, they're on the left. Are you on the left? And let me ask you a question, starting with the end in mind. Will you ever be free doing what you're doing now if you're on the left? And the answer is no. Why? Because you can't. The system is set up. You got to understand the system that you're in. I don't care how good of an employee you are. You're trading time for dollars. Sooner or later, you're out of time. You understand that? So if you can't win, why would you put time and effort and energy into a game that you can't win? You already know you lose day one. No matter how good you get. Isn't that kind of disappointing? Isn't that frustrating? How many of you ever thought this thought, if I could only be paid what I'm worth? You'll never be paid what you're worth at a job. You can't. The system doesn't work that way. So watch this. Think about this. When it comes to furniture, it's not on the screen here anymore. I don't know if one of you can help me get this back where it's going. Think about furniture, for example. There it goes, just going super slow. Okay? If you are given the opportunity to rent furniture or to buy that furniture, and the price was the exact same, $100 a month from Gardner White, okay? $100 a month, you can own the furniture or you can rent the furniture, payments the exact same. How many of you would choose to rent the furniture versus buy and own the furniture? Look at all the hands. You would, okay. That's interesting, we'll have a talk after, okay? Why wouldn't you rent the furniture? Watch this, right? Let's say the furniture was $5,000, you paid $100 a month. You'd be paying $100 a month for 50 months, and in 50 months the payments would stop. But you'd still own the what? You still sit on your couch, you can sleep in your bed, no more payments, but you get to keep what you bought. That's called ownership. Now, if you rent the furniture, you could pay $100 a month for the next 10 years, and if you miss a payment, Rent-A-Center coming and doing what? Taking your furniture. There's no end to the payment. You have to keep paying in order to keep getting. In ownership, you pay for a while, you still got to pay. You pay for a while, but at the end, payment stops, but usage continues. Does everybody understand that? Y'all get ownership when it comes to your furniture. Think about buying a house, okay? If you had a house, the same house, $1,000 a month to rent it, $1,000 a month mortgage payment. How many of you would say, sure, rent me the house? Very few, right? Okay. Why? Because if you bought the house, 30 years from now, you don't have to make no more payments, but you can still live in the house. You get tax deductions on the interest you pay, right? You could sell the house, and if the house appreciates, you get all the money you paid plus some back out. That's called ownership, right? If we rent the house, we could rent the house for 50 years. Imagine you rent a house, then you put your kids in it and your grandkids in it. You've got renters in that house for 70 years. Nobody ever owns. The minute they miss a payment, they pay for that house 3, 4, 5, and 10 times over. The minute you miss the payment, what happens? They take it back. No end to the payments. To keep the usage, you got to keep paying. In ownership, you do pay, but eventually the payments stop and you keep the usage. Y'all understand that? Everybody gets ownership when it comes to where they live. The question is this: do you get ownership when it comes to your life and the most valuable asset you have, which is your time? See, most of us are trading our time. We're making 2-week increment payments in our time to keep getting the money. We stop putting in the time, we stop getting the money. That sounds an awful lot like what? Renting. Most of us are renting ourselves to a job, to an employer, for which we'll never have the benefit. We could rent ourselves for 50, 60 years, and the moment we stop making the payment of time is the moment we stop getting what? The money back, right? Or we could own our time. We still got to put our time in. You're going to put time into this business. You're going to see a lot of people. Write this down. In our business, 99% of the time is charity, and 1% is going to make you rich. The problem is you just don't know which 1%. You don't know who it is. I don't know which one of you I'm looking at right now is the next Ian Prukner, but here's what I do know. There's at least one of you in this room that's going to do something really, really big here. I don't know which one yet, but I'm going to find you and I'm going to make you big. Do you understand? And that's what's happening. You think, well, I have to put out time. Well, you got to put out time at your job. The difference is you're going to own the effort of your time here versus rent it and never get anything for it, right? Y'all understand this? So I need a volunteer. Now listen, before I take this volunteer, I need somebody who's got relatively good physical endurance, because you're going to be up here volunteering with me for a few minutes. So raise your hand if you think that you are stud enough to volunteer. I've scared you. All right. All right, very good. Now let's see here. Who do I want to pick? No, I'm not going to pick Shane. I'm going to pick Andrew. I can't pick Shane. You'll see why in a minute. So Andrew, give Andrew a hand. Andrew's a double stud. Y'all in the foyer, come on in so you can see this. Okay? No, you're good. So Andrew, here's a bucket. I want you to hold the bucket up and show everybody. Now I want you to think about a little village in an African town right on the side kind of the Sahara, right? Okay, and every morning to get water for the village, Andrew's got to walk out and go to the well. The well's 2 or 3 miles from the village, and for his family to have water to bathe in, to cook, to drink, he's got to go out and fill up the bucket. Right, okay, and so he goes to town every day, or goes to the well every day and fills up the bucket and brings back the water, and that's all the water his family has for the day, unless he wants to go back again. The only way to get more water is what? Go back to the well, okay? Well, in this picture, your bucket is your job, right? That's your money, and every day you got to go to the job with your bucket to get filled up with money to bring it back home. And the only way you get more money than what that bucket brought in is you got to go back again to get the bucket, right? So watch this. So Andrew's going to get some weights here in his bucket. So you better hold that on the handle, buddy. You're going to rip your finger off. Okay, so I'm putting some weights in here. So Andrew's got some water in this bucket. So Andrew, we're going to walk back and forth here from this wall to that stairwell, just back and forth, okay? You're just going to keep going. So here's Andrew going with his bucket to job to get the money. He comes home. The next day he's got to go back where? To the job, right? He's got to keep going over and over and over again. So here's his bucket, right? And Andrew's just going, and we're having fun here. But see, the problem with the bucket is, what happens if somebody comes and takes his bucket? He's out of a bucket. He doesn't get no more water, right? That's his tool to provide for his family. Somebody takes the bucket. What happens if the bucket gets broken? Like when your pension gets renegotiated, when you go on contract so they don't have to pay you health insurance for the ACA rule. What happens when that bucket starts leaking a little bit, right? What happens if you lose the bucket? Any of you ever lost a job, right? What happened? You lost your bucket. You need the water, but you ain't got the tool anymore. Why? Because your bucket's the only way you're getting the water. What if it gets downsized? What if it gets overfilled? Right? So Andrew, he's doing okay. He's a handsome single guy. He's just out of college. He's doing the whole bucket toting thing. Like, man, where are you toting buckets at? I'm toting buckets at GM. What about you? I'm toting buckets at Cisco. Right? And we're talking about how big our buckets are. Like, man, my bucket's $85,000 a year. I got an $85,000 bucket. You're like, well, man, I'm getting $92,000 plus a bonus if I hit my thing. And you're bragging about your buckets, right? But then all of a sudden, Andrew meets Amber. And Amber's a nice enough girl and all, but she got some expensive taste, yo. So some water just got added to that bucket, some weight. Now he's got some more weight in that bucket, right? He's got some more responsibility. He's got somebody counting on him. You know, he can't just take off the extra weekend anymore, and if he loses the bucket, he'll go find another one. Now he's got some bills to pay. Yeah, he got a mortgage. He's going, right? So Andrew's doing good, right? Okay. And so here's what happens, right? Okay. He gets a mortgage. Add some more into the bucket, right? He has a family issue, right? Add some things in the bucket. Now watch. Now Andrew's got a couple of kids, right? Okay. So Andrew gets some more weight in that bucket now. He's got to be toting, right? Okay. Like, man, my bucket's getting heavy. Is it getting heavy yet? It's getting heavy. So that is about 48 pounds in there, okay, in that bucket. Now, Andrew's still a young man toting buckets. He only been toting buckets for a few minutes. I promise by the end of this talk, Andrew's going to hate buckets. He's going to hate buckets. Keep going, brother, right, okay? Now, watch this. He's toting his bucket, and he's doing okay, but that bucket's getting heavy, isn't it? That bucket's getting heavy. And Andrew decides he wants to take a vacation, right, with his family. He's been toting buckets now for 5 years faithfully. He's worked his way to 2 weeks paid bucket leave. Write that down. That's what it's called, paid bucket leave, where you can walk away from the bucket and they still give you some money. So go ahead and set the bucket down just for a second. So he's on 2 week vacation. But pretty soon his vacation ends, and what's he got to come back and pick up again? He got to come pick up the bucket. Because that's the only way his family can get money. It's the only way his family survives. That's his water for his family. Toting the bucket year after year, decade after decade, toting the bucket. Every once in a while, the man lets him set it down, only to return back to the bucket. You set it down on Friday night, but Monday you pick up your bucket. You go on the 2-week vacation, but 2 weeks from now you go and pick up the bucket. You get sick and have open heart surgery, and as soon as you come off medical leave act, you got to go back and you got to pick up the bucket. So Andrew gets hurt a little bit at the job, but he's still got to carry the bucket, because nobody can carry the bucket for him. You're carrying your bucket. I can't carry your bucket, Andrew. I got my own bucket to carry. And so Andrew gets a little hurt, so now, Andrew, I got to have you walk on one of your legs most days. You can balance every once in a while, but there you go. You're limping around there, okay? Carrying the bucket. He's got some health issues. Carrying the bucket. The bucket's getting pretty heavy, right? Get heavy. Don't worry, you only got about 10 more minutes of this, buddy. It's going to be good. Okay? So here's the deal. Your bucket, it doesn't care how tired you are. You've got to pick it up and carry it again. And carry it next week. And the only way you can ever stop carrying it is if every once in a while you take what barely fits in there for your family and put a little bit off to the side. Week after week, month after month, decade after decade. Or you can't ever stop carrying the bucket. You're 60, carrying the bucket. 70, carrying the bucket. And you live for those 2 days every week. You don't have to carry the bucket. And you dream about the 2 or 3 weeks every year you don't have to carry the bucket. Your whole life begins to revolve around the time you don't have to be with the bucket. Does that sound like anybody you know? They live for the weekend, bucket free time. They can't wait for that next vacation where they can set down the bucket. And the bucket's getting heavy and he's getting tired. But there's no end in sight to the bucket. So Andrew, you're going to keep going here. When you have a job, you're a bucket toter. And some of you have fancy buckets, some of you got golden buckets. Like my bucket, I make $200,000 with my bucket. That's great, set it down. Walk away. I dare you to leave that bucket. You'd be running back to that bucket very, very quickly. Some of you got fancy buckets, some of you got big buckets, some of you got little buckets, but we're all toting buckets. 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Some of you 7 days a week, because your one bucket don't get the job done, so you pick up another bucket on the side. Now you carry in 2 buckets. Andrew, pick up the second bucket there, brother. Now he's carrying 2 buckets. Mama's got a bucket. The whole family carrying buckets. And they wonder why they can't bend down to pick up the kids. Their hands full of buckets. They wonder why they're so miserable, why they're always tired, why their body's always sore. They're carrying buckets. Folks, you've got to build a pipeline. Think about that village in Africa. A couple of them wise up. Say, we're going to carry buckets our whole life unless we do something. So they spend a little bit of time, every time they go to the well, they get there an hour early. And for a year, they begin to construct a pipeline back to the village. Week after week, month after month, a little bit of extra effort. He's already tired from carrying the buckets. He says, I don't want to be a bucket toter for the rest of my life. There's no freedom from the bucket. I'll carry it forever. So he decides that he's going to start building the pipeline. Take a look at that pipeline. You see anybody watching the pipeline? Who's manning that pipeline? Who's going there and trying to hold the pipeline and take it? It's built and it lasts forever. So while Andrew's doing this, I'm going to show you another example. And this is going to sink in for you in a second about what you have to offer people. So where's John Cooper? I want John to come up here. So John, come up here. So I recruited John several years ago, 4 years ago, into the business. And I talked to John about, John, you don't need to be a bucket toter. He was a bucket toter. He was toting buckets at a financial firm, right, okay? Sitting at a desk, trying to woo clients. Said, you don't need to tote buckets forever, John. I can show you a better way. A way that you'll be free from toting the bucket for the rest of your life. So, John, we're going to build you a pipeline of people who get people who get people. So raise your hand if you are in the John Cooper Base Shop. If you're downline at John Cooper Base Shop. All right, I need you to all to stand up and to come up to the front here. Don't clap. But all the Base Shop and all the guests of the Base Shop. So if you're with one of these people who stood up, come up here. Now watch what I need you to do. So I'm going to give you an instruction, but you're already doing it instinctively. Very good. I need you to line up along this wall, and then I need some of you to line up facing the other person. And what's going to happen is we're going to create a little pipeline here. You're not in the Base Shop of John Cooper. Now raise your hand if you are an downline RVP of John Cooper. That in this office would be the Agenies. Now raise your hand if you're in the Agenie Base Shop. So I need you to stand up, go around here, and we're going to create the pipeline. Now, y'all not very good at following directions, because all you stand against the wall, but some of you need to stand here and create the pipeline. Right? No, Steve Knuth, no. Okay. Watch this.
I'm filming.
Watch this. This is what you have to offer that nobody has to offer. This is why you're in Primerica.
Keep moving.
This right here.
Get out of the bucket.
Watch this. Watch this. Andrew's toting his bucket. But in Primerica, we teach you to build a pipeline of people who get people who get people. And what flows through the pipeline are products, term insurance, mutual funds, right? He's got to pick it up and go get it with his time and bring it back to the village. But what I teach John Cooper how to do, build a pipeline of people to get that back to the village. Does this make sense? Yes. Stop and think about this. Watch this. All I had to do was teach one person about the pipeline. I taught one person, John, you got to build a pipeline or you'll never be free. He said, you're right, I need a pipeline. So he told some more people about the pipeline. And the pipeline went and built itself. Amen. Stop and think about this. This pipeline, you don't even got to build it all yourself. Now that bucket, who's responsible for it? Till the day you die, who's responsible for it? Who's going to help you carry your bucket? Nobody. Look at all the people that helped him build the pipeline. The people who got people who got people who got people. Now watch this. Our products begin to flow through that pipeline. Okay? Right? Does this make sense? He writes a sale. He writes a sale. No, don't you dare go through their pipeline, right? You're a bucket toter. Now watch this. Now watch this. That's getting heavy, isn't it? You're really sad you volunteered for this. You're going to have to let him go get a massage after this because he's going to be bad. Okay? Now watch this. He makes a sale. Tom makes a sale. Jordan makes a sale. Right? Josue recruits Rachel, she makes a sale, and watch what's happening. Not only did John build a pipeline for which he doesn't have to tote buckets, but every piece of that pipeline is getting enriched as that flows through it. Not just him. Do you understand that? Yeah. Not just him, the one who built the pipeline. Every piece of that pipeline, their family is benefiting from their section of the pipe. Does this make sense? You understanding this? I want you to get this. Write this down. I need a pipeline.
I need a pipeline.
No, I didn't say it. I said write it down. I need a pipeline. Folks, without the pipeline bringing that value back to your family, what's the only other option? You're going to be filling it up every day for the rest of your life. And when you set it down, somebody else in your family is going to have to pick it up. Or you can build the pipeline that nobody mans. It builds itself. Everybody in the pipeline gets ahead, and it will perpetuate forever. For 100 years, people will be building more things out of the pipeline. Stop and think about that.